Hey guys, welcome back to the first Pro Prep Baseball show of 2000 and is it 19, Tommy? Because I don't even know anymore. Is it? Holy,
it's 2019.
Whoa. Wasn't it just 2000? Weren't we?
Yes, we were.
Yes, weren't we just doing other stuff?
Yeah, we were.
You know, and now it's 2019 already. Oh my God, we're getting old.
And sometimes you get to do the stuff you were doing way back then. It revisits you. But let's not get into that.
Yeah, let's get.
All right, let's go.
All right, so I had to make sure that audio was off, but good to see you again, Tommy Weber. Thank you for coming on.
Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year, and thank you to everybody who's going to jump on in a little bit, I'm pretty sure. And there we go. Yep, we already got people on board. Victor Coco's on board. I know he would be.
Victor.
He's all excited about the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a big Eagles fan, so
that was an exciting game.
Oh, it was very exciting. I didn't think we were going to win, but we pulled it out. So that guy pulled a Scott Norwood. So
yeah, and some bad clock management at the end of that game by the Chicago Bears. Should have left himself more time. Would have had a couple more plays to run. Could have gotten closer.
Ooh, and it just goes to show you too, Tommy. And I don't care what sport it is. Sometimes it's this right here, right, whether you win or lose.
The margin is very rarely is it something big, as we all know.
Yep, it always comes down to these little tiny.
That's right.
Oh man, the little details, the little things that you don't think are going to make a difference, but they wind up making a difference. So, and that's why you worry about the details when you're playing sports. When you're worrying about those things,
because the difference in talent is so small.
Yeah, especially at the highest.
Everybody's the same, right?
Yeah. There are a couple of guys that stand out, but overall, the majority of the guys are at the same level.
That's why you shouldn't practice your swing. You should practice your hitting.
Yes. Speaking of, and I wanted to get into it today with you about winter workouts, since winter workouts are starting for a lot of people now. They started for us today. Colleges are getting into it right now, especially down south. We already know that they've started. But winter schools, everybody up north, the new year is the is the get-go to get in the gym and into an indoor facility and start working out. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today with you and get your feelings on that. The indoor workout for the northern teams. Southern teams we know get to go outside. So
I would say there was nothing that of all the things that I liked about all the years, we did this, especially in college, 22 years at the Division I level. I don't know that I ever enjoyed an hour indoors. It just is a really, really difficult, unless you have a fabulous facility that could somehow simulate, game situations. You really have to be a great improviser. And man, as you know better than anybody, it gets tired in a hurry. You start to get cabin fever in that gym after like 2 weeks, and you realize you got another 4 weeks to go. It's really hard to stop guys from killing one another. It really is. Very, very difficult.
And there's only so many different things you can do, and it's not full size, and you can't really let it go because when we were at Wagner, and you remember, the walls were white, and the ball is coming at you out of a white wall. So it's a recipe to get somebody really hurt, if you ask me.
Yep. So, and some teams have great facilities. Some of the larger schools have great facilities, so they have a big advantage. But most schools, even at the Division I level, have pretty archaic circumstances under which they have to work. And the reality is, if you can't get outdoors and you can't cut loose and you can't throw full distances and just have that whole big, broad perspective of a field, you're certainly shorthanded when you hit the ground running in Florida or Texas or California, wherever you fly to have your spring trip. So I don't envy trying to keep guys interested and finding ways to develop players over a very short period of time with very, very limited resources. It's really tough.
So what do you suggest? I mean, what do you suggest you do? What do you suggest you work on? I know our head coach, when we were in college, or I was in college, he was a big conditioning guy. He spent 45 minutes at the beginning. Yeah.
I was there
at the beginning of every practice, and that's all we did. We did drills. Now, I don't have an issue with doing that kind of stuff, but for 45 minutes, I think 15, 20 minutes of that is at best, and we're loosened up to get going with baseball.
I don't know of anything that at 19 to 21 years old gives you less bang for your buck with the short period of time that you have to get ready than conditioning. I mean, conditioning would be last on my list. I'm sorry. I don't know I don't know why you have to be in phenomenal condition to play 56 games over 3 months anyway. And it's baseball. It's not basketball or hockey, where it is a condition-specific game. Of course, you want your players to be in good shape. But I think, unfortunately, in the Northeast, that's a luxury that you just can't afford. You just don't have enough time or facility. So what you got to do is you got to say, listen, where do we get the most bang for our buck? And that always is in handling the ball, putting the ball in play, and throwing strikes. That's what I would spend 99% of my time on. I would have the cage open. I'd have guys taking thousands of swings in a variety of different ways. I'd have guys constantly handling the ball, turning double plays, working on catcher's release and throw, and pitchers on throwing strikes. That's what I would do.
Yeah, just drill the heck out of it. Drill the heck out of all of the specific baseball things.
And I try to keep it really loose. I would try to keep it as unstructured as possible because you're indoors, it's cold outside. It's very easy to lose guys in a setting like that. Guys really start to get batty quickly. I've seen it. You saw it for your 4 years. I saw it for the 22 that I was involved in college. It is really something you have to guard against. It's very easy to try to make it more structured when really you need to get it a little less structured, take the pressure off, and not make it so formal.
Yeah. What about your thoughts on weight training in this time? What should you be doing if you're doing any?
I would have my guys look if.
Whoop! I lost you. All right, so we lost Tommy Weber for a second. I'm gonna get him back. So let's see what happens here. He went into freeze mode. So I'm going to disconnect him, and we're going to see if we can't bring him back in really quick. So let's see. Yep. He just sent me a message. There he is. He's back. Hey, buddy. That's cool.
Time. I think it's all about time. If time permits, get yourself in the weight room. First of all, you had nothing to do for the last 4 months, so you should have been in the weight room. If you're going to do some weight training, that should have been done from the time you finished in October. These teams really have no fall anymore, so you could have had most of October, November, December. That's 3 months. That's more than enough time to get the preponderance of your weight work in. And, these are college students. It's not like they have jobs. Let's face it. We've all gone to college. Yeah. There's not a whole lot to do. You got a lot of time.
Yeah, you got plenty of time. What do you think about these 6 a.m. workouts that these guys do? I mean, is that ridiculous? Because I just remember having to get up at 5:30 to get over to the gym, in the snow to work out. And
well, college has gotten increasingly more goofy as time has gone on. I think coaches think that to the degree that they can inconvenience their players, it somehow makes them tough. First of all, it's baseball. There are very few tough guys playing baseball at the college level. It's a pretty soft experience to begin with. So attempts to toughen up your players by getting them up in the morning, what it really probably does is it makes them hate your guts and resent you because they know they don't have to get up at 6, that you're making them get up at 6 just to break their balls.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's ever a good way to lead guys into action.
No, I never thought it was, and it just, to me, it was just.
It's childish.
Yeah, like you said, it just set the guys against the head coach.
Right. Why do you want to do that?
The head coach.
I've never understood that motivation. Believe me, I never understood why you would ever want your players or people who work for you to not like you. This nonsense. I don't care if they like me. I only want them to respect me. Here's a newsflash: if they don't like you, they probably don't respect you.
Yeah. There's a very little chance of that happening. The two, it goes hand in hand. They have to respect you, and you kind of have to like you too.
Right.
Respect
I agree.
and like. They go together.
Yep.
All right. Victor Coco just asked a question. Do you have weigh-in penalties for reporting to college baseball practice? Weigh-in penalties? No, we don't. I don't remember ever there being, get on the scale, you're overweight.
I'll let you in on a little secret.
Yeah.
If you're the best player on, I call it the Jim Brown rule.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you're the best guy on the team, I never had many rules for one reason. I never wanted a stupid rule to stand between me and winning a championship. So I didn't want to box myself into a corner. So I have the Jim Brown rule. Jim Brown used to fall asleep on the blocking sled at Syracuse during practice. But he was Jim Brown, so who cares? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Now, if it's Joe Smith falling asleep, maybe you tell him, hey, you can't fall asleep. But it's Jim Brown. You want to hand him the ball off and let him run for 180 yards during the game. So, penalizing guys for, weight or whatever it might be, if you could perform, that's the bottom line. And if you could perform and you smoke and you're overweight, well, that's your own personal issue you have to deal with. I'm concerned with how much you bring to the ball club, and I think you do have to have an open mind when you're dealing with people with regards to stuff like that.
Yeah, and absolutely. You saw it at the major league level recently with Panda, the guy from San Francisco.
Right, Sandoval.
Yeah, Sandoval. He had a weight issue, and then he went and he lost weight, and then he actually didn't play as well.
He sucked.
Yeah. And then he put some weight back on, and he was back to playing the way he used to play, or close to it. So, and John Kruk, you look at John Kruk, that guy was out of shape. And,
David Wells.
Yeah, you take a look at these guys.
Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah, you get Sid Fernandez. I mean, really, the guy I played defense behind the guy. His ass was so big, I almost couldn't see the hitter. That's how big it was. So, I mean, I didn't care. As long as they went out and they did their job, didn't care.
I think it's like anything else. You got to pick your battles. And if you're the manager or you're a head coach or you're a parent or you're a teacher or whatever it might be, you could have a fight every second. You could be fighting all the time. You start to, you become basically a sparring partner and no longer a mentor or an advocate. And I think that's when you're starting to run, you're going downhill at that point.
Yeah, I don't see why you go and clash head to head with people over every issue. There are certain things, that I could see, but you're not going to change that person. I really don't think so.
You're not running a fat farm either. You're running a baseball team. One of my pet peeves this week I was going to mention is this constant notion that baseball, is an opportunity for life lessons. Listen. Life is a life lesson. Most people don't play baseball, so it's not like baseball is a unique way to learn about life. Everything you do in your life is a life lesson. So sometimes we try to, impose upon kids and players the notion that this is some way to learn about life. Everything is a life lesson. You get up in the morning and you go get your coffee. That's a life lesson. So I just don't think that this is necessarily every second is an opportunity to teach some gigantic lesson about life. It's a baseball team. We're here to win games. You know what? If you're out of shape, well, you'll deal with that the rest of your life. But as far as within the context of this team, if you can help us and you're fat, I'm fine with that.
I like that. If you can help us and you're fat,
it's fine with me. I don't like it.
Yeah. And in today's game, too, you take a look at it compared to the game 30, 40 years ago. These guys are working out year-round. They have specialized trainers. They're taking specialized chemicals. They're on a specialized diet.
12 months a year.
Yeah, and they do it all the time. And it's not just guys at the major league level. You're talking about college guys at the highest level. You're talking about youth baseball players even. They're working with a private trainer, a private instructor,
There's a lot of great information. There's a lot of great information out there, and a lot of things you can just go on YouTube and teach yourself. There's no excuse to not be in shape. But if you're not in shape and you can hit 380, you're playing for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree. How can you help this team? And if you're overweight, I don't care. If you just hit 15 home runs and drove in 45 runs for me in a short season, I'm in. You're my guy. So. And that's the thing about baseball. Baseball is so skill specific. You can be out of shape and still perform.
That's right. I think maybe that we've gone the other way where guys are a little too concerned about being in too good a shape and they sort of neglect their skill set, especially younger players who haven't attained the level of skills that you need to be an excellent player and are wasting a lot of time in the gym when they really should be fielding ground balls or hitting or pitching or doing whatever it is they do.
And I totally agree with that. And I will say this, that during my 9 years when I played, there were a couple of seasons where in the off season, I hit the weights hard and I got big and muscular. When I got to spring training, Tommy, I felt like I couldn't do anything.
You probably felt slow
and
big
and stiff.
Yep.
And then I kind of backed off on the weights and I kind of slimmed back down a little bit. And then I felt better. I felt quicker. I felt like I could get to the ball with my swing now. I didn't feel like I was getting jammed as much. It makes a difference. And I was throwing the ball more easily and getting the ball across the infield better. So
there's no magic pill, and there's a point of diminishing return in everything.
Yeah.
Everything's not all good or all bad. You need to strike a balance, and that balance can only be attained by you. You have to know what works for you.
Yeah. After the best years that I had were years when in the off season I did things like, and I you know this, I took ballet, took dance,
yoga.
Yep. I worked out, but I did not work out heavy. And I was in great shape, but I did not work out heavy. And I did mental things. I meditated. I focused. I saw. I did the mental visionary.
And you, of course, benefited from an extremely low IQ, which helps
exactly.
you a lot.
Exactly. I did have a really low IQ. And, all I remember is every season showing up and the head coach looking at me and going, "Are you stupid or something?" And I'd just say, "Stupid as stupid does, sir." Run out to the field. All right. Anyway, winter workouts. We started ours today, and here's the story I got today, which was really a weird situation. So we go over to the Naval Academy to work out. We've set up this thing with one of the assistants at Navy. So we go over there today. It's warm down here. It was 50-some degrees. So we went outside. We were on the field. So, he's running the thing, and I'm just kind of sitting there helping the guy. Well, halfway through, he gets a phone call.
Oh, geez.
And you could just hear on the other end. And then you hear him just, "Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But we've done this in past years, sir."
Oh, boy.
Dude, they shut it down right then and there, right in the middle. I had 12, 13-year-old, 12-year-olds like, what do we do? And then I had 12 groups of parents that I had to say, "I know we paid money, but, the guy didn't take any of our money." He said, I got to shut it down because we were supposed to do 11 weeks with this guy. And now we can't do any. I was like, holy shit. So now I'm scrambling because I got to find a whole new facility and find out another facility now. I was like, whoa. It was crazy. I was just like, out of my control. I didn't have any control.
Right. Right.
But I felt bad. I felt bad for the guy.
He's getting court-martialed. That's going to be like A Few Good Men.
Yeah. You could just hear I was like, whoa, man, I felt bad for the guy. And he took it pretty hard too after, I could tell. I went over to him and I said, "Look, I'm glad you made the effort to try and set this up for us, and I'm sorry that, whatever went down, because I don't know exactly what went down. But, thanks. I'll get everybody out, don't worry. We'll, but
wow. That sucks.
It did, and we were having a great practice too. The kids were having fun, it was a fun thing. They were laughing, we were out there just enjoying being out there. Everybody, finally getting back together. We hadn't seen these kids since October,
Right.
And man, it was just tough for the kids and tough for
Well, maybe you'll get some mild weather if you get a mild stretch. Where you get up into the high 40s, early 50s. You can go outside.
It'd be nice, but unfortunately the fields down here aren't in great shape. We've had a lot of rain. And it's just been awful down here. Weather-wise, has been really wet and a lot of just muddy, wet everything, and just wrecks the fields. They're like cow pastures, not like fields.
Yeah, so. I know.
All right, man. So I saw your Sundays with Tommy today, which was really interesting, and you were talking about sports gambling, the sports ads that you're seeing, and
hearing.
You want to go into that?
Yeah, it's as if I woke up and all I hear now are these. I guess I missed something. I missed how easily our major leagues, baseball, football, basketball. I guess hockey's on its way. I think hockey already is. They've basically.
Oh, I lost you again. Whoop. Well, we lost Tommy Weber again, but I'm going to bring him back, so hang in there tight with me, people. There we go. Something's going on tonight, but we'll get it. We'll get it back. He will be. There you are. What's going on, man? I guess. I don't know. Maybe.
I just to pick up where I left off. We have had such a well-documented past experience with gambling and professional sports in a very devastating fashion, whether it be point shaving or the Black Sox scandal, Pete Rose, Art Schlichter, just all sorts of the referee in basketball and college basketball scandals that the ease with which these major leagues have actually bought stakes in these gambling sites is troubling to me, because I'm a kid. We both come from similar backgrounds. We knew a lot of guys that engaged in gambling and were either bookmakers or gamblers themselves, and the devastating impact that it has on people, their families, and their finances. This is not just harmless games. These are things that could really get people hooked early and could have a devastating impact on them. And I'm just taken aback at how easily baseball, football, basketball, and hockey have gotten into bed and become surrogate bookies for these companies. And I just felt like saying that. And I think it was I understand the revenue stream. I'm a free market capitalist, and I don't think there's any limit on how much money you can make or should want to make. But this might have been a pitch that everybody should have taken, because it could have very, very, very devastating effect on not only the people who watch the game, but the games themselves.
You know what? I put up a poll just now, Tommy, and which is kind of cool because this is the first time we've ever done this. Unfortunately, the poll covered your face, so I had to move you down.
That could be a good thing.
So I had to move you down a little bit so people could still see you, which is pretty funny. So at least I'm aware of that now. So the next time we do a poll, at least I'll be able to not cover up your face. Well, I uncovered it, and it's uncovered still. Poll's going on. Dan Ford answered it. Another person answered it. I answered the poll.
Look, we've all look. I don't want to get added. I don't want people to tell me I'm like some old school guy or whatever. I understand people enjoy having a little wager, and that's not what we're talking about here. We're now talking about the sanctioning of gambling across the board, and Major League Baseball, football, hockey, and basketball sanctioning it and becoming a part of it, having a vested interest in you losing your money. Because the way that these sites stay in business is Ken Arnold, Tom Weber, Dan Ford, whoever, you have to lose your money.
Yep.
They don't make money if you're making money. And anybody who knows anything about gambling knows the house always wins, which means the gambler always loses. So I just think it's I don't know how this happened in mass. Like all of a sudden, all I see and hear are these advertisements for gambling sites.
Yeah, anytime I drive up that way, that's all I hear on the radio the whole way, especially on the sports radio stations.
Absolutely.
That's all they do. And it makes you think that if they're sanctioning it, if the major league organizations, the professional sports organizations are sanctioning it, do you think that they have some influence on the end results of some games and some?
Well, the only thing you have in sports is the uncertainty of the outcome. The minute you don't have that, you no longer have a league. What you have is wrestling. If I were, and I'm not, and these guys are really smart that run these organizations and run the leagues, I just would have thought twice about how heavily I wanted to cast my lot with something that could really be disastrous. And it reminds me a lot of what the cigarette companies did 50 years ago. They had these slick ads and this cool packaging, which was meant to hook you at a young age and make you a customer for life. And there are some stark similarities between that and what these gambling sites do.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that, because they want to hook you. They want to get you hooked. They want to get you addicted. They're working on the addiction factor, and they know that. They're not.
Of course, they're
not clueless.
We all know that. We all know that.
And that's what they're doing. And yeah, I think.
When was the last time you watched a game with a guy who had a bet on the game? It's like they're like out of their minds. I mean, I've done it my whole life. I've known crazy degenerate gamblers my whole. They're not even seeing the actual game. They're seeing some conspiracy theory unravel in front of them, played on the field. A guy kicks a field goal. Well, that's because he had a bet on the game. Pass interference. Well, that's because the ref had a bet on the game. I mean, it makes people crazy. And you see the allure of the action and how it could get into a guy's blood and all of a sudden obscure his objectivity. And now the guy's a degenerate gambler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why I don't gamble.
Neither do I.
Because I would get like that. I'm very
I have that
addictive. Yes, I have that addictive thing in me as well. Where if I get into it, I'm in it. So that's why I've never gotten into gambling at all, because I knew that it would.
And we've discussed this before. Look, I understand, but I just wonder psychologically what the hole is that you need to fill up. I don't know why you need to have action on a game to make it interesting. I really don't understand that. I can't identify with that, even though I've been around it my whole life. Look, when I was a kid, I ran card games and crap games I was involved in, but I never gambled.
Yeah.
And I just what is it about us that we need to have $10 on the Giant game or on the Yankee game or whatever? It's very troubling to me.
Yeah, I bet. I don't bet money. So on football,
I'll bet on myself. Yeah. I'll bet on myself. If you want to race me or play me in golf or whatever. But then I have control over the outcome. Yeah. If I play poorly, I lose $5. If I play well, I win $5. That's different. When you have no control, that's really, when you think about it psychologically, putting your money on something you have no control over. Wow.
Yeah. It becomes very
toxic,
sketchy. Yeah.
Yes.
Toxic and sketchy.
And you got to deal with a certain kind of person and people who are involved in those businesses. They're unavoidable, and the temptations are big. You get some kid in college who, if I tell him, listen, shave 5, make sure you lose by more than 5, I'll give you $10,000. You know what? 10 grand in a bag to a kid, all he's got to do is miss a couple of free throws. That's very tempting.
Yeah, it is. Especially, if your mom's out of work and, you need the money so she doesn't get kicked out of her apartment or whatever it is. It's very tempting. Yeah, and, even in baseball and the minor leagues, there are stories like legends, myths that, players go to play overseas and they wind up playing in these leagues. And
no question.
Yeah, and in one story, the best one I ever heard was they took money from both sides and didn't realize it and wound up in the trunk of a car taken out in the middle of nowhere. And, they wound up, coming
alive.
Back. Yeah,
right.
Coming back. If that is a true story, I don't know. It was, but I tend to believe that probably did happen. So, and I kind of knew the two guys that it happened to, and they were both dumb as stumps. So, yeah, I could see them making that decision. So, all right, moving on, man. The winter meetings passed, and everybody is starting to make trades. Hasn't been any movement on the big boys,
nope.
On Machado or Harper. I think they're waiting to see who is going to come up with the biggest deal. And I know the Phillies are willing to go 10 years for either Harper or Machado. Yeah, they've said that they'll do it. And I think the Philly fan base wants them to do it because they've been waiting for so long. And they want them to go out and get somebody. So,
well, you got to really think about how close you are and whether or not whoever you have to not play because you have to play one of these guys is worth not playing. The difference between the two is worth a 10-year attachment to a player, especially, in light of the fact, as we've said a million times before, very, very, very few of these big contracts, in retrospect, are contracts you would do over again.
Yeah, no, I don't remember one in retrospect. Now, I understand the Trout deal because he was 22, maybe. I don't know how old he was. But these guys they're getting into their late 20s. When these contracts are over, they'll be in their mid to late 30s. I don't know. I don't think I do that as an organization. I try to build from the inside, make some trades, try to get some good prospects, and build that way. The Phillies did go out and sign Dave Robertson from the Yankees.
That's a good deal. He's good.
That was a fantastic move by the Phillies, I think, because their bullpen, their back end of their bullpen is what really hurt them last year down the stretch.
He's really good. He's really good.
And he is. He is good, and he's been good for a long time.
And he's durable.
Mm-hmm. Yep, not a lot of injuries. He gets out there. He pitches all day long, so which is fantastic. But yeah, I think the Phillies are gonna make an attempt, and then you got the White Sox that are going to spend some money. Of course, the Yankees, they're going to try to get one of them, and I think maybe the Dodgers will be in play for Harper. But those are the only markets I think that are going to make an attempt.
Yeah, it's interesting how there are so very few teams anymore that really have the means to go after these big time free agents. It really comes down to 3 or 4 teams almost every time. Of the 30 teams, 25 basically abstain. They're not even in the picture. And it really does come down to 3 or 4 teams every time. I mean, Philadelphia is really a new player in this market. They were never a player in the market for the big guy. Now they are. They've decided to throw their hats in the ring. But there really aren't. I mean, when you think about it, 10, 15 years ago, there were more teams that were willing to take a fly. Texas Rangers took Alex Rodriguez with that big contract. And there were just more teams, I thought, with an appetite for this thing.
But
go ahead.
When the Rangers did take A-Rod, right, do you think that was because they thought they were making their team better, that they were going to win a championship? Or do you think they did that to get more butts in the seats? Because I don't think they signed him thinking that they had a chance to win a lot of World Series and start a dynasty with him.
Well, that's a interest. I never thought about it that way. I'd have to go back. I'm thinking about the club that they had at the time. Mm-hmm. Look, I like volume. I want 3 good players rather than 1 great player, because you got to put 9 guys on the field, and the more really good players I have, the better team I'm going to put on the field. So if what I have to do to get 1 great player is to play 2 lesser players, then net I'm not sure what my gain is.
Yeah, I read an article last week about those contracts, the big contracts, and going out to sign a guy just to put people in the seats. That's it. Not because you thought you were close to winning a World Series championship.
That's a big risk.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, are the White Sox close?
I didn't think so.
No.
I'll tell you the truth. I didn't even think about the White Sox until they were mentioned a couple of weeks ago as one of the front runners.
Yeah, I'm like, they're in a market where they can afford to spend that kind of money.
Yes, they can.
Are they close? Like, if they sign Harper or Machado, does that push them over the edge to make them a contender? And I don't believe so. I
think pitchers tend to put you over the top more than players do.
Players.
Like Verlander. Let's face it. The Astros could pat themselves on the back all they want, and they do have an excellent organization, and they think outside the box and all that stuff. But the reality is, without Justin Verlander, you have no World Series.
Yeah.
You had to get Justin Verlander. He was the guy. You had to get the big-time starter, the big horse who could throw 9 innings and shut out another team and shut down teams in the playoffs. So, had they gotten Manny Machado, I don't think that he would have gotten them into the World Series. I think a big-time pitcher might. So I don't know. If I'm the Yankees, if I'm a big one, I just would think long and hard about going after. First of all, I'm not sure Bryce Harper is worth it. I haven't seen enough production from Bryce Harper for me to throw that kind of money at him. Machado has had a better career.
He hit 240 last year.
Yeah, I tell you,
and
that scares me.
Yeah, but their big numbers WAR. What the hell is that? I don't even know what that stands for.
Wins above replacement.
Yeah,
Listen, I can invent an analytic too. But the reality is, from what I've seen of Bryce Harper, I don't know that he's worth that kind of money yet. Yeah. Does he have all the tools and all that stuff? That's great. But tools don't win. Production wins.
Yeah. And last year I thought he had a horrible season. I thought he did.
And they've both been on the wrong side, as far as I'm concerned, of the character spectrum at times in their career. They've both been pains in the ass, and that concerns me. And neither of them, as great as they supposedly are, have led a team to victory.
No, yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think the reason why the Nationals were good or have been good is because of their pitching. Their starting pitching.
Right.
Strasburg and Scherzer and Gonzalez when he was going good. So that's
right. It's hard to suck when you have that kind of pitching.
Yeah, and that's why they were good for that stretch. I think their window is kind of closed now. But yeah. So we got Dan Ford on, Brian O'Neill joined, and Renee is on board. Hey, Renee, Happy New Year, man. Thanks for joining.
And Victor Coco asked, would I go to attend a live Phillies game? Yes, and I would go to one of my favorite restaurants in the world is Osteria in Philly. It's a Vetri restaurant. I had one of the greatest meals of my life there with a couple of my players. That's where we'll go to dinner, and then we'll go to a game. Yes.
All right. Let's do it this summer. Let's make it like late summer though.
Okay.
Yeah, I got some other stuff to do in the early summer.
Okay. Okay.
I'm important. I've got important stuff to do.
Wow.
No, I'm going on vacation, man.
Your tour? You going on tour?
Yeah, going on tour. I'm going to North Carolina for 2 weeks with the family. That's why. So, yeah.
So I got something that's going to make your head explode.
All right, go ahead.
So you know about the ABCA convention happens around this time every year, right? It was in Dallas this year. It's really like goofball city where everybody goes, and
Okay.
It's a mutual admiration society, and everybody talks about how great the guys get up there and tell you how to field a ground ball basically on a stage.
Yes.
Like this is the new way we field a
Yes.
ground ball.
Yeah, the guy gets up there with the home plate around his neck and says it's 17 inches wide.
Yeah, and they go and they wear their uniforms. They wear their uniforms.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's just really weak. Anyway, but I could go on, but I'll Twitter will like burn me out.
Yeah.
But it is so goofy and lame. So now I found out because we're always open to learning. It's no longer referred to as a bad hop.
No, what is it?
Ken, guys like you who don't know better should know we don't refer to it as a bad hop anymore. Okay, that's like referring to the pitcher's mound, the bump, as the pitcher's mound.
Okay.
It's so old school. Okay, it's now literally bounce variance.
Bounce variance.
Help me God. And guys are like tweeting out how this is the new thing, and it's like effective velocity and liquid analytics. Now we don't call it bad hop anymore. You know the ball that hit you in the side of the face that hit, right? Okay, those balls, weren't bad hops.
They were bounce.
That was you experienced bounce variance. We are so through the looking glass now in baseball that it's really almost embarrassing. I mean, can we all just be collectively embarrassed at the direction the game is taking now? Really? Bounce variance?
So what you're telling me, Tommy, is when the ball is hit to me, as an infielder, I've got to be worried about the bounce variance. And what percentage of that variance
and I'm sure
is, yes.
There's like a chart with all the dots on it.
Yeah.
Right? It's got like the 8 million dots. And
Uh-huh.
I guess somehow, this is going to, I guess, help you. So it's like if you rename it, somehow, sorry, I'm excited. Somehow it helps you not get a
bad hop,
not get a bounce variance.
I'm gonna say you're still gonna get that bounce variance, because it happens, because they're unexpected a lot of times. Bounce variance.
What else are we gonna? What's a bat's not gonna be called a bat for long, right? What's it gonna be called? Maybe that would be the next. Maybe we should ask people out there who are listening.
Yeah.
What else can we rename and goof up about the game for fear of being referred to as old school?
Yeah. Instead of calling it first base, what are they going to call it? The
initial landing area.
Yes, the initial landing square.
The LIS.
Yes.
No, the ILS. It's the ILS.
It's the ILS. It's the initial.
Then you would have the secondary landing square.
Square. Yes. Okay.
Tertiary landing square.
Yeah. And then of course,
it's not home plate. It's the dish.
Yeah, it's not the dish.
I would like to take a dish and break it over there. Anyway.
Oh wow, bounce variance. I'm gonna run that out there. So Brian O'Neill jumped in and said it's not just in baseball. Even in his job, they rename things, but it's the exact same thing.
Brian works for the New York City Fire Department. I guess it's not a fire anymore. What is it? An extremely hot circumstance? It's still a fire, for Christ's sake.
And if it has a tendency to get too hot and like explode, it's a variance. Yes.
Flame variance.
Variance. Yes. Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, a bounce variance. So yeah, I've seen videos from these things. I've never been to one. Those conventions you're talking about, Tommy.
It's a cult. It's a cult.
But yeah.
And everybody buys in. Everybody like, yeah, this is great. Like you could get up there literally and say, you know what it's like? You ever see the spoofs on like the art galleries where the guy has like the blank canvas?
Yes.
And he's talking about how complicated it is.
Yeah.
And the guy walks by and goes, "It's a blank canvas."
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this is how I feel with these conventions. It's like everybody's, they're standing up applauding the guy. What are you? He just talked about fielding a ground ball.
That was it. Yeah. And getting a bad hop, or how to eliminate bad hops, or how to eliminate bounce variance at 3 p.m. with Joe Schmeckles from Middle Eastern nowhere state.
Right.
Okay, I got it. Yeah. Well, all right. I guess you got to make yourself sound smart.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
It's tedious, man. It's tiring.
Right. So anyway, in the major leagues, we talked about the moves and stuff that's being made, which really hasn't been a lot of movement. The Phillies had made a nice move, but what do you think? AL team has the best chance in 2019 to win the World Series. I'm going to throw a poll up right now and see what we get as far as the top four teams. I think the Red Sox, in my opinion, have the best shots to repeat. They're going to have most of the same guys coming back, and they were tough. Dude, I don't care what you say. I'm not a Red Sox fan. I've never been a Red Sox fan, but they were good. And they were really good. They were really good.
They might be the best team since the '98 Yankees.
Yeah.
Those Giant teams were good too. Those Giant teams were very, very good. They reminded me a lot of those Giant teams. Very efficient, played great defense, really good starting pitching.
Yeah.
Put the ball in play, wore you down. Good team.
So yeah, I had Boston. I also had Houston on the list, and I had New York and Cleveland were my four that are in the poll. So the Yankees, just because they're going to put up so much offense with the team that they have, they're going to hit a lot of home runs. They're going to strike out a lot, but their starting pitching, their catching is weak, I think, and
I don't like the Yankees starting pitching.
Yeah, it's okay. Who do they have? CeCe at the front end?
I think they're going to keep Sonny Gray now. Is that right? Are they going to keep him?
I think so.
Wow. When you're forced to keep Sonny Gray.
Yeah. So Brian O'Neill said no other team has done enough to pass Boston yet.
No way.
Yeah, unless one of these teams signs somebody who can help them. Has Keuchel signed yet? Dallas Keuchel, the lefty from the Astros. So I don't think he's signed yet. But if somebody can put them on their pitching staff, if the Yankees might be able to get someone like him, or they make a trade and get some good starting pitching, then maybe the Yankees will be better suited to compete against Boston. But I don't think anybody, and in the National League, I don't think anybody can beat Boston.
I also think Boston's style of play is one that just doesn't go up and down. They have three tremendous outfielders, put the ball in play a lot.
Play great defense.
They play tremendous defense. They value outs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of style that doesn't slump. It's not like the long ball where you're going to feast or famine. You're going to strike out a ton. It's going to be hard for you to score runs at times. I just don't see the Red Sox doing that. And a guy like Xander Bogaerts, who I think is one of the best players in the game, didn't even have a great year last year. What happens if he has a turnaround season, another tremendous season to add to Benintendi and Mookie Betts and all these other guys they have? Man, they could be really, really tough.
Yeah. No, they could be tough for a long time too. Yep. So, and that's the good thing. And that to me is a dynasty when you can do that.
Great teams win more than once.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the results for our poll on gambling, they just came up. They just popped up. We had 100% no as far as do you think sports gambling is a good thing? 100% was no. So, it wasn't that many people, but still, that was the result. So, which is, and we're talking. I think we're preaching to the choir here with the guys that we get on for the most part.
I'd love to hear from people who say yes, it's a good thing. I mean, I see the both sides of most issues. I understand why people are on either side of any issue. I just like to know how are you on the side of this is a good thing for who and for who.
Yeah. Dan Ford said Boston lost Joe Kelly. That made them a little bit weaker. If they lose Kimbrel, I don't think they're going to lose Kimbrel. He'll be there another year. And again, what Boston will do, I think, is at the trade deadline they'll trade for somebody for the back end of their bullpen. Probably. Most likely. They'll go to one of the lower end teams who has no chance, and they'll make a trade a couple prospects, give them some money, and get somebody to bolster the back end of the bullpen. Which, and just as well as I do, Tommy, closers, do they make a difference?
Well, you'd like to have a closer, but
Yeah.
I think if you notice, teams find closers.
Yeah.
They really do. I mean, they just find the close. It's still when it's all said and done, it's one inning at the end of a game, 40 or 50 times a year. I don't place the same value on that position that I do a guy who logs a lot of middle innings for you, or who's flexible like that Ramiro Mendoza kind of guy, who could spot start for you, who could pitch 2 or 3 innings in the middle of a game. To me, those are the most valuable pitchers other than starters on your team.
Yeah, I agree. At the back end of the bullpen, even Mariano Rivera came in and blew some games, in big games, World Series.
Here's something that'll get me burned out. Mariano Rivera is one of the greatest and most overrated pitchers ever. Now, remember what I said. One of the greatest.
One of the greatest.
He is
yes,
great.
He is.
But he's overrated.
Yeah. His numbers prove that he's...
And I'm a Yankee guy. I love the Yankees. Believe me, I love Mariano Rivera. He's great. I get it. I get Cutter. I know. Unbelievable control. But overrated.
Dennis Eckersley, right?
Dennis Eckersley is a little different.
Yeah.
Dennis Eckersley pitched more than 1 inning.
Yeah, but he was a great relief pitcher.
Great relief pitcher.
Guess what? What is he known for, though?
Kirk Gibson.
Exactly.
Backdoor slider.
Yeah. And he lost that game. Even though he was one of the great. He's a Hall of Fame guy. But they lose, too. Even Hall of Fame guys lose sometimes. Yeah.
They do.
You can't get too hung up on the closer as, the guy that's going to come in and save your season.
And I'll say this.
So,
if the greatest player who ever lived, by a long shot, Babe Ruth, who's also one of the 10 greatest pitchers who's ever lived, is not in the Hall of Fame via a unanimous vote, no one should ever get into the Hall of Fame with a unanimous vote. Yeah. I'm sorry. So if I was voting, I would make sure that nobody ever got in as a tribute to the game's greatest player ever, and to show you that this is the gold standard, and that if you can't achieve that, if that guy couldn't get 100%, no one should ever get 100%. And anybody who thinks that in 1 year 10 guys should get into the Hall of Fame, like some of these MLB guys, you're out of your mind. Then you shouldn't be voting.
Yeah. What were they doing? Lance Berkman.
Lance Berkman.
They were talking about him. They were arguing the reasons why he should be in the Hall of Fame the other day. I'm like, Lance Berkman, I mean, he was a good player.
He should be in the conversation. These guys would have you believe that everybody should be in the conversation. It's the Hall of Fame. It should be very discriminatory. You should be finding ways to keep guys out, not finding ways to put guys in. Yeah. It's the Hall of Fame. It should be for the game's absolute elite greatest ever.
Yes, and I watch the show. I can't even watch it. I sit down and they start talking about these guys, and I'm like, really?
And they feel bad. Kenny Lofton. What?
Kenny Lofton.
Hall of Fame? Jim Edmonds is not in the Hall of Fame, and he was a better player than Kenny Lofton.
Yeah, well, Kenny Lofton was a decent player in his day.
No, he was a very good player. I'm not saying he wasn't a good player.
Not
and you know what?
Famer.
Here's another thing. You could have a great career but not be a great player.
Yeah. And guess what? It's okay if you don't make the Hall of Fame. Doesn't mean that you didn't play for 20 years, big league baseball. You've done more than 99.9% of the population.
Right. I mean, how much more? Come on. And what starts to happen is when you start letting guys in who really weren't great elite players.
It's already started to happen.
I know it has. Yes. Now you start to measure the guys that you're going to put in against those guys. So all it does is depreciate the quality of the player that comes in. It allows more and more guys in, and you no longer have a Hall of Fame. You have a Hall of the very good.
Yeah, and you lower the bar, and you keep lowering the bar. Then you got to keep lowering the bar,
right?
Because it makes no sense. So, I think Bo Jackson was one of the greatest athletes of all time, and but he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame in any sport because he didn't play long enough.
That's right.
I think he stood out above anybody else in the short period of time he played. But guess what?
I have an easy barometer. If the minute you hear the guy's name, you don't say he was great, he's out. He can't be in the Hall of Fame. Can't argue. It's my Tom Glavine rule. I just never thought he was great. Really good pitcher, left-hander. Yeah, pitched on a great team, won a lot of games. But I never thought he was great. He shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame.
Yep. And Brian O'Neill said the same thing just now. If you have to argue for a guy, then he probably shouldn't be there.
Right.
Most guys agree right away on a guy. As soon as you say his name, boom, Hall of Fame. Boom, right? Done. He's in the Hall of Fame. So who are some guys that are still playing right now when they get in? They're an automatic lock. I would say first on my mind, Albert Pujols.
Pujols is it.
Yeah, boom. Great player. Great hitter. He's automatically, first ballot guy. Who else could you throw out there? But then you would have guys. Who would they start arguing for that have played?
Well, I know who they're going to argue for. They're going to argue for guys like CC Sabathia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think CC Sabathia is a Hall of Fame pitcher. Very good left-handed pitcher. Very good, like Andy Pettitte. Yeah. Very good left-handed pitcher. But they're not Hall of Famers. Sandy Koufax is in the Hall of Fame.
How many wins does CC have?
He's got a lot of wins. He's a very good pitcher. He pitched for a long time. But that doesn't make you a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Sandy Koufax doesn't have that many wins either because he didn't play a lot of years. He played
6 seasons.
That was it.
But his last 4 were ridiculous.
Were really good. Yeah, right. And then he was just like, Miggy. Yeah, Miguel Cabrera. Yeah.
He'll be in.
Yeah, I think he'll be in.
He'll get it.
Fantastic hitter. Fantastic hitter. Well, let's see the results of the poll. See if anybody came on and voted to see which AL team will win the World Series. I'm liking this new poll thing, Tommy. I got more tools to play with. We're
pollsters.
Yeah, we're polling people now. It's amazing. Now I got to wait though. When I type it in here, it takes about 30 seconds.
We're like Rasmussen.
Yes. This poll was conducted by. Will CC Sabathia have 3 good more years, Tommy? Do you think he's got 3 good more years under his belt? No. I think he's done after this one.
Yeah, look, CC Sabathia is a functioning, left-handed pitcher who you hope doesn't, hurt his knee or come up lame. He's pitching on borrowed time. God bless him. He's had a great career. He's really had a great career. I don't think he's been a great pitcher. He's had great seasons. But I reserve great for guys.
Oh, you locked up on me again, Tommy. That's all right. Tommy just went off, but we're going to bring him back as quick as we can. And then we're going to wrap the show up after we get this poll in. I'm going to disconnect this. I'm going to reconnect. There you are. Gotcha. Yep, you're back on.
Does he have 3 great? Man, if the Yankees would... First of all, he doesn't want to pitch 3 more years. He wants to pitch 1 more season. I don't think he's got... physically, it takes, he's pitched a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's never been in good shape. So, he's taken a beating.
Yeah. So the poll, the stuff has come up. Which AL team has best chance to win the 2019 World Series? Boston, 67%. Houston, 33%. The Yankees got none. Cleveland got none. Doesn't mean they can't win it, but, according to the multitudes of folks that we polled just now, the hundreds and hundreds of people watching at home, yes, they said Boston 67%. And I agree. I agree that Boston is the team to beat in both leagues, American League and National League. So
I agree. I think Boston's heads and shoulders, they're the front runners by a wide margin.
All right.
And next year the season will tell.
All right, Tommy. This is what we're going to do.
What?
We're going to give Brian O'Neill a chance to win this fabulous T-shirt.
Oh, my God.
Yes, this Pro Prep baseball T-shirt.
Hold on.
Brian O'Neill. Here it comes. Play it for me. Is that's the trivia? The trivia?
Yes. That's what I like.
All right, here's the question. The giveaway question. You need to name, all right? This is just like the World Series. You got to give me 4 out of 7, right? You got to win 4 out of 7. Okay? Which major league teams, name 4, have not won a World Series? So there are 7. You need to name 4. And then if you can do that, right, Brian O'Neill, you win this T-shirt.
That's pretty good what I'm doing right now.
I know, it is good. It's almost like Jeopardy.
I can't. Copyright.
Exactly. Don't go there because we'll have to pay. All right, Tommy, come back in. We're gonna let Brian O'Neill We're going to let Brian O'Neill, if you can name 4 of the 7 Major League teams that have never won a World Series. Oh, look at that. You win. Mariners, Padres, Expos, and Rangers. That is true.
Googling
son of a
cheating
gun.
bastard.
That's all right. I would have sent him one anyway. That's right. Let's see. Kansas City didn't win. Of course Kansas City won.
1985. 85, and they won 15.
Yeah. So Seattle Mariners, Washington Nationals, Colorado Rockies, Milwaukee Brewers, Padres, Tampa Bay Rays, and the Texas Rangers are the 7 teams who have not won a World Series.
Texas Rangers didn't win. Why?
Because they made some really dumb...
Because his name dropped the fly ball in right field off the bat of David Freese.
Yeah, it was terrible. And they were down to the last strike, too. It was the last strike.
Catch the ball.
Boom,
all you got to do is catch it.
Game's over. Game's over. Rangers win a World Series.
But you know what?
Again, comes down to that.
Defense is old school. You're so old school.
It is. It is old school. You know what was kind of shocking today? The coach that was over at Navy, who was a young guy, he even said it. He said, I'm very old school. I teach old school. We do things around here old school. He made them tuck their shirts in. He said to them, you should all be wearing a belt and you should look professional. You should all have your hats on. You should have them wearing them correctly. I was like, man, I like this guy already. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and we had to...
then you got thrown off the field.
Yeah, then we got thrown off the field, out of the facility. I was like, okay. All right, so here, real quick question, and then we'll wrap this up. Do you think Roy Halladay is a Hall of Fame pitcher?
Wow. I tell you what, when I hear Roy Halladay, I do think, man, he was great. He was great.
Yeah.
He was great.
He was great.
Did he pitch long enough?
He pitched longer than Sandy Koufax. You see what I'm saying? That's a tough one. That is a tough one.
Yeah, there's a guy that look. We could have a discussion about Roy Halladay. Yes, no question. And the fact his premature passing obviously has nothing to do with it. But here's a guy who you can at least talk about. I mean, some of these other Kenny Lofton. I mean. No. Lance Berkman. No. You lose your credibility when you even mention Lance Berkman.
Yeah, when you start doing that, you're just like, really?
What about Todd Zeile?
Oh, that's great.
Alex Karras.
Oh, did you see Scott Brocious? Talking about guys who are good players, but aren't Hall of Famers, right?
Terrific player.
He became the head of the USA Baseball. He was the head. He was running it now. Scott Brocious.
Really?
So he's the head instructor, head coach, manager, so to speak, if like the USA team, which is great.
Wow.
Yeah,
good
he just got named that. Yeah,
he's a good guy. I like him.
Saw that the other day, so that's kind of cool.
Hell of a player.
Yes, he was. Hell of a player for the Yankees. I don't know, who else did he play for? I mean, he played for other teams, but I don't remember exactly who else he played for.
Who'd they get Brocious from? Was he Seattle? No.
He may have been. Seattle's like Siberia anymore, I think.
Well, it is Siberia.
Boom. See you later. Nothing but rain and, just everybody's miserable.
Our guys that play at the University of Washington hate it. Hate Seattle.
And then they move out immediately.
Oh my God.
Oakland, yes. Brian O'Neill said.
Oakland, right. Oakland A's.
Harold Baines. That's a good question, Dan Ford. Harold Baines. That's another good question.
I loved Harold Baines. I watched Harold Baines play his whole career.
Yeah.
There's two things about Harold Baines. I think that he spent a lot of time as a DH. He accumulated a lot of hits as a DH. He didn't even get to 3,000 hits. I don't think Harold Baines is a Hall of Famer. And Harold Baines is one of those guys who's a great player, but he's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who's a Hall of Famer. Dick Allen is a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. Take a look at his numbers. Yeah. He was great.
Yeah, he's not in, right?
Great. Dave Parker.
Yeah.
Dave Parker was a great player.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Parker was a much better player than Harold Baines. Much better.
Yeah, defensively too, I think.
Great defender. Absolutely. Great defender. Batting title.
And Harold Baines, most of his career, back end of it, was all DH.
Yes.
Yeah, he didn't have to play both positions.
Like
I still have a problem. With that.
Paul Molitor.
I know, he has 3,000 hits.
But if he wasn't a DH, he wouldn't have gotten 3,000 hits, and he would not have been in the Hall of Fame. No. Paul Molitor got in the Hall of Fame because of 3,000 hits. I don't think And I like Paul Molitor. I don't have anything against him, but I just don't think he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. No. I mean, combined with his managing and playing, and if he wins some championships, then maybe, yeah, I'd see him getting in. But he's in, isn't he? Already, Paul Molitor's in.
Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So, anyway, Tommy, we got to wrap this up.
Okay.
Brian O'Neill, if you direct message me your address, I'll send you this T-shirt. As a matter of fact, I'll send you a couple. So just direct message me your address, and I'll get those to you. Tommy, thanks for joining me. Everybody who came on tonight, thank you. This new polling thing is kind of cool. I'm kind of digging it. We'll get more into that. As the winter progresses and more deals are made and things go on, we'll talk about those. But also, we're going to be talking about getting ready for the season and different things that you can do to prepare your team to get them ready, whether it's high school, whether it's youth, whether it's college, things that you can do to get your players ready to get ready for the upcoming spring season, especially in the Northeast, because down south, they're already doing it. They're already doing it, Tommy, True. Which is a distinct advantage. So we were making fun of that today. We said, yeah, you want a good baseball field? Move to Florida. So you ain't gonna find them here. So, or they're very rare. So. All right, man. You're awful quiet right now.
I'm waiting for my cue. Oh, all right. No. I've got some. I'm doing some clinics this week. I'm speaking at a couple of places, so I'm gonna get some interesting feedback. It's something I've kind of avoided, but I know I have to do. So I'm really interested to hear from some of these younger coaches and parents and players as to launch angle, exit. I'm going to hear a lot of launch angle and exit velocity.
And yes.
Yeah, I'm going to hear a lot of that.
So, where can they listen to your podcast, Tommy?
They can listen to it on TommyWeberBaseball.com, baby. Look at that. Wow.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. Yeah, yep. It is. It is.
And what's the topic this week?
My podcast this week, who do I have? This week I got Mike Massey, University of Illinois, All-American, going to go high in the draft. Really, really good player. Played for us last year in the Cape. We became very close. Infield, we spent a lot of time together. Really, really good kid and really good player. Lefty hitter, speed, arm, strong kid. Going to do really well in pro ball.
Excellent. Very cool. If you get a chance, folks, listen in to Tommy Weber Baseball and tune in next week because we'll be back on Sunday night. Tommy, thank you for joining me.
Thank you,
pal. I will see you next week. I might even see you this week because I'm going to be up in the New York area. So
I'm here.
I'm
here.
All right. And have a good night. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Love you, man. Be good.
All right. Love you, too.